my name is Kara and it's another week of whips and finished objects. So as promised, it is actually mostly whips because I have just been very distracted trying to figure out what patterns I want to release in the fall, and just like I have so many ideas and I don't have enough time to knit. I have tons of time to knit actually, but like I'm basically having more ideas than I can knit, and it's a little stressful but fun. One of the ideas that I had was just to come up with the idea of super beginner friendly patterns, which isn't like an entirely original idea, but I just thought that it'd be nice because a lot of new knitters ask me like which of my patterns are beginner friendly, and I do have really beginner friendly patterns, but like I just want to write some bottom up sweaters and cardigans that are just like full of pictures, full of step-by-step like instructions, and like have film tutorials as well, so that people who are new to knitting can follow along really easily. And I do already have some beginner friendly patterns in like the Lonnie sweater and the Benny sweater as well, but those are both top-down sweaters, and I think beginners can really, like, they can start with the top-down sweater for sure, but there is a learning curve, so I just thought that if somebody wanted to start with like a bottom-up sweater as well, that they should have a pattern of mine to work off of. So these will be completely seamless because they're bottom up, and I'm pretty excited for them. I forgot how fun it is to work with super bulky yarn because I've just been knitting the samples and taking a bunch of pictures, and they just like fly off the needles. And I'm also trying to write patterns for like the lace sweaters that I've been working on recently, and I'm just trying to take my time with everything and like make the Ravelry pages. Like I usually really procrastinate on like naming sweaters and then making the Ravelry pages for them, but I've been like super productive and making those pretty proactively, and I'm kind of impressed with myself because I don't know if you guys have ever done this before, but like, or even used Ravelry, but it's kind of a pain to upload anything to it. But it's really nice for later when I'm actually like releasing the pattern itself, because I have everything and all the information and like the suggested materials and like what your gauge should be like written up, and I can just copy and paste that into like descriptions of like the Etsy and like my website listing. But this is like super niche and I don't need to talk about that. Just know that I really procrastinate on it, and it's like not hard, it just takes some time. But let's just talk about knits now. So the first thing I have for you is the Ollie sweater, and it's in Wool and the Gang Crazy Sexy Wool and Stonewash Blue. And for the longest time, I used to hoard this yarn until I just started making myself use it, because I think I bought it during a Black Friday sale of 2021, which is about when I started getting into knitting, and I like saw this yarn and I fell in love and I was like, I have to have it. So I ordered it during the sale, and I don't think that they've stocked it since. And I'm pretty sure that they've discontinued the color, and I'm so sad about it because this blue is just so lovely. And I even like ordered it when somebody like was like de-stashing their stash, if that's it, or they're clearing out their stash, and so like I ordered it all the way from England from like a knitting friend, and then I just hoarded it for a while. But now I'm finally using it, and I'm really happy I did because it's just so pretty. And this took me like, I don't know, like 6 hours. Super bulky yarn just whips up so quickly, and because it's bottom up, like there's a lot of knitting in the round, so the minimum number of purling possible, because purling with super bulky yarn is a challenge. And I normally knit continental, so I knit pretty quickly, but when it comes to super bulky yarn, if it's a mostly purl row, I'll actually revert to an English style purling, just because otherwise my wrist gets kind of tired and it's just like, it just takes a lot. So I actually English purl for the super bulky yarns. And I find that my tension's actually a lot better, because with super bulky yarn, I think it's hard to keep the tension correct with Norwegian purling. So when I go back to English purling, it makes it so that the stitches are nice and even. And I'm actually amazed at how little yarn this took. Like this took about 4 skeins for a size small. And again, to be clear, it is cropped, but it is supposed to be a little bit oversized and has like big wide sleeves. So not a lot of time and not a lot of yarn for a super beginner friendly pattern. So then my next whip is actually the mohair version of the Ollie sweater, and I'm using Loopy Mango Mohair So Soft, and I think the colorway Tiramisu. And I've also been hoarding this yarn because it's really expensive, and I managed to snag it on like sale, so it was like 50% off. And then I was like, it's too expensive, I don't know what to do with it. So then I've just hoarded it, but now I'm finally using it because I saw some people using it as kind of like a substitute for super bulky yarn, and I was like, that seems strange. It's 50 grams per 60 or 50 meters. Like, super bulky yarn that I usually work with is like 200 grams per 80 meters. But it's turning out really fun. Like, I really like how airy and light it is. I think this would be like a lot more appropriate for my weather because it is the middle of summer. And even though I'm preparing to start knitting for the fall, like, this mohair just seems like a smart decision to knit with. But yeah, that's definitely something to consider, is that it is super expensive, so it's not necessarily the best yarn for like beginners to look at, because I think a lot of people wouldn't be willing to spend money on like yarn for their very first project if it's that expensive. But that's also true for the super bulky yarns. But I'm just trying to explore options, and that's part of the reason why I always knit seconds and I try to knit with different yarns, because I want to show people what the actual sweater or piece will look like when it's knit up with a second type of yarn, just because, like, here's what it looks like in Crazy Sexy Wool, and now here's what it looks like in Mohair So Soft, and that'll just give people options and ideas. But another thing I want to try in the future is to knit with the scrap yarns, or just like a bunch of like Aran and worsted weight yarns together, just to create a bulky weight yarn, because I think that when people start out knitting and they're not going to like specialty yarn shops, I think that like worsted and Aran weight yarns are like far more common than like super bulky and bulky weight yarns. So I'm going to try to show people how they can create that super bulky effect with like the yarns that they can find. But that's a project for the future. But yeah, the Mohair So Soft is working out like pretty well, I'd say. Like, this is about 1.5 skeins worth, I think. I kind of like woven the ends as I was going, so it's hard to tell, but I'm pretty sure that this is my second skein, and I have about a third to half of it left. The next finished object that I have for you is my nail art top, and I did get my nails done like literally the same day that I finished this top, because I was like, it's time. It's been like 3 weeks. I need to cut my nails, and I did cut them a little bit shorter, but they're still pretty long by some people's standards, but I mean, they're still pretty long. But this is my nail art top. I made an entire video on the process of making it, and it's a mix of intarsia with mohair and bulky weight yarn, and it's Cascade Yarns, Ecological Wool, and just some undyed mohair that I had. And I am happy with how it turned out, kind of. I think that there's a few things that I would change about it, but like I haven't fully placed my finger on it. I think that I'll like iron that out when I make a second, if I make a second. I'm still debating whether or not I want to make a pattern for this, but it's a super cropped, kind of tight, but long sleeved top, and it is a little bit more artsy than my normal style, but I thought it was pretty fun to knit up. It was a bit stressful to work with a single strand of mohair with 8mm needles, just because I thought that like it would snap, and honestly sometimes when I didn't want to reach for my scissors, I would just like pull the mohair and it would break, and I would like basically cut it. But yes, I am vaguely considering making a second, and if I would make a second, it would be, I think, in purples, depending on how much like lavender mohair that I have left over after these other projects. Now, the next whip I have for you is the Ollie cardigan. So it's a bottom-up cardigan, and it's going to be super chill. Like, it's just gonna be like straight panels, and I finished the front right panel, and I started on the front left panel. Sorry, why did I say back? The back's on hold, but it is whipping up so quickly. Like, I started it this morning, and I'll probably finish the body within the next like hour and a half, maybe. If I continue to knit with this, like, I don't know if I will. But this lovely, like, bluish green is Malabrigo Rasta in Cucumber. And this is also another yarn that I've hoarded. Like, I've had it since the fall of last year. So, September of 2021, I think? 2022? 2021. But I've had it forever, and I was also scared to use it. And then I think that me knowing that I'm either going to have to clear out everything, so I have to use it or I have to sell it by the end of summer, has really motivated me to start using the yarns that I've hoarded. And I'm excited about it. Like, I like these yarns a lot. That's why I never used them, because I thought they were so pretty. And getting to finally use them has been quite the experience. Like, I'll probably always hoard yarn no matter what, like even after this summer, but it's been pretty fun to like finally go like, ooh, I get to use this, and like I'm scanning it up and then using it and just like seeing how it works up, and just like it meets my expectations, at least, all these yarns, because they're all so pretty. But yeah, if anybody is curious, this is about a a skein and a half and a bit, like 1.75 skeins of Malabrigo Rasta worked up. Yeah, it's hard for me to tell because I did have some scraps from another project, so I ended up incorporating that into this, so I'm just estimating here. My next whip is another Ollie cardigan because I couldn't decide which one I wanted to start with, so then I ended up just kind of doing both. So this one is in Loopy Mango Mohair So Soft in, I think, Shameless pink. The really bright pink, the really fun pink. And another yarn that I've hoarded because it was so expensive, but I got it like half off, so I was excited to finally get it. But I don't know, I think that I just wanted to start this one. I started with the mohair because I was curious on how it would work up, but then I was like, what's it going to be like with an actual like super bulky yarn? But yeah, I was working on the Ollie sweater and mohair, and then I was also working on this Ollie cardigan and mohair, and then I was like, I'm tired of working with the mohair, I want to go back to super bulky yarn, and what's it going to be like with Malabrigo Rasta? So then I actually started the Rasta Ollie cardigan second after this one, and then I'm working on that one instead of this one. I don't know why, but this pink is really fun. Like, look how pretty it is against my nails. I got my nails done. Yeah, I mentioned that, but they're really fun. My next whip is a top-down sweater, and it's the second version of that hot pink sweater that I made last week. I'll show you guys in a second. But it has this like really fun, I call it a honeycomb lace stitch, but it's kind of hard to tell when it's like this far along just because it bunches up because there's not enough room on the needles. But it's made in 2 strands of Sandnes Garn Kos in Jelly Bean Green. And I'm pulling from the center skein, so it's fun because you can keep the label on it and then it just like slowly disappears and then like it's just the label. Then you're like, oh, I gotta find another skein. But I really like this yarn. I think that it has really gorgeous colors because it's very similar to Wool and Decaying Feeling Good yarn. I would say that the Feeling Good yarn's a bit softer. It's actually quite a bit softer. Like, this is soft, but Feeling Good yarn is like unbelievably soft, and I love holding it double. So this is 50 grams for 150 meters. And so I was thinking about it and I was like, this is actually, I'm surprised that I can use this as kind of like a bulky weight yarn. But I do, and I think it whips up pretty quickly and nicely. Honestly, like, you can't even tell that I'm holding like 2 strands together, but I just love this green. It's like a lovely spring green, even though it's summer, but it will eventually look like this, hopefully. And I'm not entirely sure what size I'm making yet, just because I'm kind of making this project to bust through the stash of the Jelly Bean Green Kos yarn that I have. So it'll probably be an extra small, a small, or a medium, but I haven't decided yet. And that's the beauty of a top-down sweater, is that you can kind of adjust sizes as you're knitting it rather than like, well, cast it on the wrong number of stitches. I'm just going to keep on increasing basically until I judge that I have used enough of the yarn, or just like used most of it. Because that's one of my big problems as a knitter, is that I always buy like a sweater's quantities worth of yarn, but then like I might make a top, or I might make it like a smaller size, or I might make it more cropped, so then I have a bunch of that yarn left over. And it's not enough for another project, but I don't know what to do with it. So I tend to sell it, or I might like replenish it and like buy more of that yarn, but I'm trying really hard not to do that this summer just because I need to get through all my yarn. But I'm not entirely sure what to call this sweater yet. I was like thinking of like all these like honeycombs, like, oh, like puns with money. I've been watching a lot of Bob's Burgers, so there's like tons of puns in there, and it's like very inspiring. And every time I watch the show, I'm just like, how do the writers come up with all of these puns? Like, do they get them from the internet? Is there like suggestions? Like, I love it. The next FO that I have for you is a Head in the Clouds top here. And I was just kind of on my walk yesterday, and I was looking at the sunset, and it was super nice, and the clouds were just so pretty, and then I was like, why don't I have a Head in the Clouds top? Like, I think that'd be a really fun way to like bring in like super bulky yarn into the summer. Like, if you make a backless top, like, you could bring super bulky yarn into the summer. So then I just charted it up, and I based it off of the back and forth top because I really like the fit of that, and it's knit flat, so I can do intarsia. And I think that I would kind of mess around with the placement of the clouds more, just because I didn't know how it would whip up, because it was a little stressful like trying to figure out like combining those two patterns, but I'm almost satisfied with the results. Like, definitely gonna make another and tweak it a little bit more, but this will be the extra small, so that'll be good. And the extra small is definitely gonna be the hardest because it has the least amount of area to actually have the clouds on, so it's almost there, and this is an extra small. The only issue is that I used this Cascade Magnum yarn that I had, and like they're very similar to the Stonewash blue that I have. So basically almost all of my super bulky yarn that is blue looks like this exact same shade of blue. And I do want to make a second, and I would like it to be a different blue, but the only other blue that I have is the Matisse blue by Malabrigo Yarns. And I have some here, and it is kind of more of like a midnight sky blue, which could work. I'm just like not entirely sure. And let me know if you guys have any thoughts on this. Like, it'd be like a midnight sky blue versus like a middle of the day sky blue. But I am gonna work this into a pattern, I think. I just have to figure out how I'm going to tweak the clouds, like figure out the placement of everything. But it's coming soon. And once I finish that top design, I don't know, maybe I'll make an in the mood top. I think that the nail art top kind of just got me into the mood of intarsia, but with super bulky yarn instead, because maybe think like, oh, intarsia is really fun because like you can create all these fun designs, but super bulky intarsia is a lot better because it's not as scary. And I also got some yarn, it's not here yet, but I ordered it to make a light version of the Head in the Clouds sweater, just because it's been on my list of things to do for like over a year and I just haven't done it. And now I want to, because I'm getting more comfortable like designing with like non-super chunky yarn, and I want to get better at designing intarsia patterns with lighter weight yarns because it's more fun. And then once I finished the Head in the Clouds top, I was like, well, why don't I make a vest too? So I finished the front panel of the Head in the Clouds vest here. Sorry, it's curling in at the edges here, but you can see it. And I just need to do the back panel, and then I'll do the neck. And I'm trying to decide if I want arm ribbing. I probably will, because I did a lot of decreases like in anticipation of it, and I think it's actually maybe neat enough to leave it exposed, but I didn't slip any stitches, which is what I normally do if I'm not going to do arm ribbing, but might work out. But this is actually in the Wool in the Gang Crazy Sexy Wool in Stonewash Blue with Malabrigo, Rasta, and Natural. And the Cascade Magnum blue that I found, I don't think it's discontinued. It might be hard to find, but I don't think it's discontinued. Looks almost exactly the same. Like, I am sitting here and I can't tell the difference. And I was looking at the labels, and they're both made in Peru. So they might be from the same mill. And my final whip for you is this Blink of an Eyelet sweater. I finally named it. And I have the body done, and I'm almost done with the first sleeve, kind of. Maybe not. I have maybe 4 more inches to go because I don't want really short sleeves on this one. But I predicted that I would make a lot of progress with it, and I did. I finished the increases for the body like really quickly, and then finished the body because I was like, meh, and then I finished the sleeve because I was also like, meh. I think that with top-down sweaters, I get really, really, really enthusiastic about them, like while I'm doing the increases. But then as soon as it gets to just like straight knitting in the round, I'm like, not as fun, not as challenging, gonna move on to another project. But I'm getting through it, and it has been quite the adventure to hold 5 strands of yarn together. But I figured out this like fun hack where like I hang the 5 strands of yarn over my overhead camera like holder, and then I just pull it, and then they all like pull up straight so that there's like no like moving around, and it hasn't been super tangled. Because there have been quite a bit of tangles with this sweater, but it's been slow progress on this one because I only knit the sweater upstairs because I leave it upstairs normally. Yeah, but it is super pretty still, and I still have quite a bit of 3 skeins of the yarn left, and these are my seconds for these ones. So I think I'll be able to get through with the rest of the sleeves with just what I have, so pretty good yardage. But not that it means that much to you guys, so I think it'll take 1 skein of the We Are Knitters Touch Me Mohair, I think that's what it's called, 1 skein of this undyed mohair, which I think is 50 grams for 420 meters, 1 skein of this Wandering Flock mohair, which is also 50 grams for 420 meters, 2 skeins of this DK yarn from Kindred Red, and it's in crystalline, and 2 skeins of this Knitting for Olive Lavender. But that is everything that I have for you guys this week. I was right last week in predicting that there's a lot more whips than FOs, but hopefully next week will be a lot more FOs. Who knows though? I am going to Hawaii and my mom reminded me of that, so gotta figure out the yarn that I'm gonna pack for that. Because the last time I went to Hawaii while I was knitting, I only brought like super bulky yarns, and that was kind of miserable because my legs just got so hot. But thank you so much for watching. Hope you have a lovely rest of your day. Happy knitting. See ya.